Good morning, and welcome to Cloud Foundry Morning Edition. I'm Stormy Peters, VP of Technical Evangelism for the Cloud Foundry Foundation. So I've had a lot of fun this past week, a couple of good hacking sessions. Yesterday, I spent the whole day working with learning the Meetup API and Python, and I managed to make myself several scripts that will spit out all the Cloud Foundry Meetup data in the format I want. So I'm going to have to read my notes here, but I can tell you that in the month of October 2015, you can go to meetups in London. The London one's actually happening right now, or like in a half hour it starts. It's not in a pub this time. It's about securing containers. You can also go to one in Irvine, California, Minnesota. You can skip over to Europe and go to Munich or Sydney. There's one here in Colorado where Home Depot is speaking. Then you go back to Europe and you can go to one, actually make a stop in Canada on the way, go to one in Montreal, then go to Paris and Dublin, then head to Southeast Asia, go to Manila, Vietnam, Seoul, come back to San Francisco, Chicago, Seattle, then, go back to Madrid, go to Europe for a little bit, and come back and finish up your month in Dallas. So those are all Cloud Foundry meetups happening this month. And some of the cities like London and San Francisco had more than one meetup. So I just told you one for each place. So I had a lot of fun getting the data out in the format I want, and I had a lot of fun seeing where all Cloud Foundry is at. Now, each of those talks isn't Cloud Foundry, like just Cloud Foundry related. I think most of them were. Some are like a little more PaaS. The meetups bring in other topics. All of those meetups and many more are looking for speakers. So if those places sound fun and you use Cloud Foundry or you work on Cloud Foundry, please reach out to the meetup owner. And then if you need help with travel funds, let me know. I was originally planning to go, I thought it would be fun to go to a meetup a month until I'd gone to all of them. I figure at the current rate of meetups, it will be more than 10 years before I could visit all of them, even attending one a month. But I'm doing pretty good. I've been to a couple of them already. On the event front, General Electric had their great big event, Minds and Machines, huge event in San Francisco, and they had a massive launch to attract ISVs and system integrators to Predix, which is their Cloud Foundry platform, Cloud Foundry-based platform. So that's totally awesome to see that happening in that industry. On events still, right now in Dublin is LinuxCon Cloud Open, and I believe there was just a tweet with someone on stage talking about Cloud Foundry just as I started to record this. So things happening live there right now. Other exciting news that has come out of Europe is Swisscom extended its cloud offering with a PaaS based on Cloud Foundry. So huge news there, huge community that can use that. And right after they launched it, they immediately went to a Hackfest in Zurich, I think, where they were promoting Cloud Foundry and having teams hack on it. I believe some of the other Cloud Foundry members were also there, like SAP and Bluemix. So SAP, Bluemix, and Swisscom were all at this Hackfest, letting people build awesome things on Cloud Foundry platforms. So really exciting news there, especially ramping up to our Cloud Foundry Summit in Europe in Berlin. So if you didn't get to go to that Hackfest, you can still sign up for the Cloud Foundry Summit in Berlin and join us there. Other news, other partners promoting it. It was kind of fun to see Bank of New York Mellon, BNY Mellon, post an ad. I forget now if it was the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal. It's like one of the big New York papers. And they said they were the first investment company to join the Cloud Foundry Foundation. So since then, we've started a financial SIG, and we have a large number of financial companies in the financial industry working with us to make sure that we include their requirements in the features that they need in Cloud Foundry. So if you're in the financial industry and want to participate in that, please let us know. We'd be happy to include you. Their next meetup is going to be in Berlin right before the summit, I believe. So that was fun to see. Good to see people bragging about open source software that's making the world a better place. Then we had our doc sprint last week, so I got another whole day of hacking. During the doc sprint, we had about 14 people from several different companies, including HP, Bluebox, HP, Bluebox, and Pivotal, as well as some individuals that joined us, some volunteers. And during the doc sprint, the individual is a board member, part of it, so works at Safeway. At least one of them, So lots of great people working with us, and we had 4 projects that we focused on for the day. One group created a new landing page for the docs beforehand, or right now I think it's still just a list of all the docs that exist, all the projects, and they worked on a landing page that's like, what does someone come to the docs page for, and what are they most likely going to want to do? They're going to want to install Cloud Foundry, launch an app, so they worked on that. Another team worked on getting started from scratch. So, how can you get from nothing about Cloud Foundry on your laptop to Cloud Foundry installed, running an app on it? And I think 45 minutes was the time they got it down in, from like nothing installed to app running on it. Then another team looked at, app developers who come to use Cloud Foundry are going to be familiar with different languages. So can we make the first app experience easy for them in whatever language they're used to? So can we have sample apps in each of the languages? So they worked on that. And then the fourth group, they weren't in any particular order. The fourth group worked on what is Cloud Foundry, and I'm actually working on a little video clip to show you how the definition got edited over time. So I will share that on YouTube as well, and I'll share it in next week's Cloud Foundry Morning Edition if my video editing skills live up to the task. I just wanted to point out, so I'm focused on technical evangelism at Cloud Foundry, and it came up in the doc sprint, and it comes up again and again. I just wanted to point out that with evangelism, we're focusing on users. So we think it's really important to make sure that more people can use Cloud Foundry, because we have a really active, strong base of contributors, especially with all our member companies. So we are focused on the user front for now. And this came up during, we had a meetup in San Francisco at the Cloud Foundry Foundation offices after the doc sprint. And one of the speakers talked about community. And we talked about, is it more important to have users versus contributors, company employees versus individuals who are volunteers? And our community of contributors is very much at the moment, the majority of them are employees at companies, but I think one of the strengths that brings is that we're growing our community that way, and companies are investing in these people, and then these people can move around in the ecosystem, and that makes a better environment for companies to be able to find good people to hire. It's better for the people to have that in their career. So I think that's a great thing. But from an evangelism perspective, we're focused on getting users, and as a way to do that, we're focused on Lattice. So we're focused on making sure people can download and use Lattice effectively, because when people try out Cloud Foundry, as we found out at the doc sprint, Cloud Foundry is pretty massive if you're using a little laptop that might not have as much memory as a server in your work environment. And Lattice is built to show you what Cloud Foundry is, to bring you some of that power to your laptop. And there was even an article this past week about best tools for web developers, and Lattice is one of the ones listed. So focus on users, focus on Lattice. Other news, the movie The Martian released this week, and you're asking, why is that about Cloud Foundry? The Martian was not filmed or written on Cloud Foundry platform as far as I know, but Andy Weir, who's the author of the book The Martian, he's a friend of Sam Ramsey's, and he gave a keynote at the Cloud Foundry Summit last May, and it's a really awesome keynote because he explains how he wrote this book, and then he explains how he wrote this book with open source methods. So he wrote this book, and it didn't sell, and so then he'd written it over years or months, I don't remember the time frame, with a lot of help from people. Like every time he needed help with the science, he'd put it out there, and he'd put out the books and bits and pieces. And so he kind of felt like it was a community effort. So at one point he tried to give the book away, and people wouldn't take it in that format. So he ended up having to sell it through Amazon, and then he ended up getting a publisher. But it's a really awesome story about how he developed this book very much in collaboration with other people in the community, and how that led to the finished product. And he's very humble and just kind of comes across very genuinely in the keynote. So if you go to YouTube, you just search YouTube Cloud Foundry Andy Weir, you can watch that video from when he was speaking about that. A not so happy news. I was really disappointed yesterday to read a post by Sarah Sharp, who's a Linux kernel engineer, saying that she has left the Linux kernel community. She hasn't left open source. She's still doing awesome stuff with outreachy and sort of more user level open source software projects. and a huge thank you to her for all of her Linux kernel contributions and for all of the contributions she's currently making. But it was sad to me to see that she gave the reason for her leaving was the Linux kernel community culture. And I think we all need to continue to do as much as we can to make sure our communities are as diverse as possible. Because we're leaving like half of the potential developers out there. Like, Linux kernel doesn't have very many women in it, and so women are half the population. So if they had women in the Linux kernel community, they could have twice as many people. And then those maintainers, they could have twice as many maintainers, and then they wouldn't be so stressed out, and they wouldn't feel like they had to act like that. So thanks to Sarah for her contributions. Thanks for speaking up. If you are in any open source software community or any technical community, and you see people, getting short-tempered or speaking inappropriately or making jokes that aren't welcoming of everyone, please speak up. We're trying really hard at Cloud Foundry Foundation. I don't know if I've ever mentioned, at the Cloud Foundry Foundation, we have a really respectful environment, and we don't interrupt each other. And it's the first time in my entire 20-year career I have been at a place where you don't interrupt people. I have to say, I feel like I'm the most guilty of it the most often. But it really is a awesome way to work when you get to say your idea and everybody listens very attentively, and then when you're done, someone else speaks and you listen to them. Like, it creates such a team, a really strong team in a very short time, because of that culture of respect, and the not interrupting is one piece of that. I also have to say that we're also working really hard to make sure like the speakers at the Cloud Foundry summits are diverse, as diverse as we can make them. And we have they're not meetups, but diversity events at the Cloud Foundry Summit. For example, in the Santa Clara one, we had Robin Reynolds come. She made a documentary about women in tech after a conversation she had with her daughter, and it's been released. We got an early preview of it at the summit, but you can watch that as well. Then my funny thing, not funny, I mean, it's sad, but it's funny. I really love the way Sarah Sharp's moderator is handling nasty comments. So she said she was going to do this, and they're doing this, whoever the moderator is. Whenever anyone posts a nasty comment or some inappropriate comment, I don't know what they are, I haven't seen them, they leave the person and their comment, and they just replace the text with fart, fart, fart. I think it's awesome. I'm going to try that for my blog post from now on. So please help all the communities you're in be welcoming and diverse, because it will make us all stronger, not just in numbers of people, but just in diversity of ideas. Wanted to remind you, Cloud Foundry summits in Berlin and in Shanghai are coming up. You can register now. I got an ad from United saying there was $250 tickets to Berlin. I couldn't manage to locate those. If you do, you have better travel skills than I do, and I would love to hear from you. But I do know it's very cheap to fly to Asia. And I do know that the Berlin agenda is really awesome, very strong, and we're working on the Asia one right now. On the topic of Cloud Foundry Summit Asia, we're still looking for sponsors for the China event, and I just kind of wanted to put a plug in why China is so important. So we actually surveyed a whole bunch of people to get data, and China came up as a place where we should be. And it's because right now in China, if you ask people there, they're talking about innovating faster over business differentiators, which is totally the continuous innovation model. They're talking about building DevOps cultures right now. They're talking about cloud native apps. And they're really leaping to the platform. So they're really moving from building apps on internet as a service infrastructures to platform as a service infrastructures. So now is really the time, if you're a Cloud Foundry business, to be looking at China. And the summit is a great way to get in front of a whole bunch of people interested in it all at once. So if you haven't registered for Cloud Foundry Summit Berlin or Cloud Foundry Summit Asia, Shanghai, you can do that right now. We'd love to see you there. And if you are a company using Cloud Foundry and want to sponsor the China Summit, we are looking for sponsors. So have a great week. Look for my little vignette on what is Cloud Foundry. And I will see you next week.